Welcome to the DevReady podcast. Joining me on the DevReady podcast today, I have Gareth Ryden from Friday for another one of our monthly AI chats and just to see what's happening and what we're doing and experiencing with everything. Gareth, thanks for joining me again.
Welcome. Thank you for having me back on.
I haven't had much time to think about what I'm going to talk to you about today. I don't know what, there's been a lot happening in the last month since we last did this. Any standouts for you or something you've been trying at Friday that's different?
Yeah, there's two standouts, and I think one of them was we started to touch on it when we last caught up, but really leaning into the communicating with agents. So not building them, but like the pre-built agents, like what you've got in ChatGPT and a paid plan of ChatGPT now, and just how quickly that's come to the market and how good it is. And really interesting just speaking to different clients about how they're playing around with it. That's something that's been pretty interesting. We're still, our experience has been it's amazing about what it can do because in principle, anything that's a web application, an agent can search it and interact with it.
Yep.
But on the other side of that, the risk around prompt injection and hacking that can happen when you're putting your agent out in the wild.
Yeah, there's a new type of
So
attack there.
yeah, it's been interesting to play with it, but then what we're seeing at the moment now is more we're getting asked or we're sort of pushing it. We're helping people more understand how to communicate with agents and less only a small amount of people that need to really know how to build them.
Yep.
So I'm really liking that slow shift I'm seeing in the market because there was a ton of noise out in the market where people are saying, what agent are you going to build next? And when are you building your agents? And I've just built my agent and all that stuff. And I've always felt quite frustrated with that because in my head, it was like saying to people, the average person, when say computers came out, oh, what hard drive are you going to build? What's the hard drive you're going to build? Rather than how do you use a computer? So I think 85 to 90% of people need to more focus on learning how to interact with an agent, and the 10% of people need to know how to build them.
Yeah, I would say most businesses don't need to know how to build an agent. They just need to know how to use it, how to get it to do what they want it to do, rather than going into NAN and trying to make something or an equivalent tool. And most of the people that were on LinkedIn saying they were building agents, they weren't really building agents.
I totally agree. They may have been doing some automations and workflows. And what I like about that shift is I think a lot of people are like breathing a bit of a sigh of relief because heaps of clients that we talk to, and even just people that, we're coaching in, one-on-one coaching sessions and our workshops is they sort of confided in us, not just the standard question, how do you keep pace with the tools, but really when we dug into how they were feeling is, I don't really even understand what their people are saying when they're saying agent, and even like a classic line we get with a lot of senior executives that come and talk to us is saying, well, I was sitting with this CIO and they went to some course and they said, look, they've built this agent to do all this stuff for them, like respond to their emails and then reply. And can you show me how to build this agent? And I'd say, no. Let's instead, in your role, learn how to instruct and manage and coordinate agents. And then they go, what do you mean? I said, well, think about it around the first step you need to do before you even use the word agent is think about a task that's just in your brain where there's all these steps, but you don't think consciously about the steps because you've done it so many times. You say, talk me through those steps. Let's write them out. Okay. And then if you looked at those steps, how would you give instructions to someone for them to do that for you? And then they write those instructions. They go, great. Now that is your starting point for instructing an agent. And it's so great to see they go, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can actually start to approach that. And they feel more confident ignoring a bit of the noise around come to this workshop and learn how to build agents with us. So it's,
They just need to remember they need to treat it like a person. If you don't give it enough instructions, the person won't do the right job either. It's just understanding that I think is a barrier for most people because I think it's software. So it's not how I have to think about it because I've been trained with different kind of software over the past 30, 40 years with how everyone's been using computers.
And another important ingredient in that, in terms of communicating with it as well, is what do you want to take control of, or what do you want to put your access credentials in versus giving to an agent? And that's a very murky area at the moment, where people are saying, look, I'll just allow it to get in and give it all my access credentials for my Gmail or my Outlook and my calendar because I want it to run it and manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, actually, if you think about those steps, when do you want to take control? Because if we use ChatGPT agent as a great example, it opens up its browser, it starts going about the task. Unless you've instructed it at key points to say, I want to take control at this point, let me know when you get to a login screen and I will enter those credentials. Versus, I've seen people who are saying, here's all my login credentials, do the task end to end.
Just giving it the Excel file that they're managing.
Yeah, I'm just a bit unsure about that at the moment. But then that's an interesting distinction for them to go, oh, okay. So just like a person, I don't know, using a random example, if you were working with a financial advisor, and this is from my days working in this space, in the finance space, is working in a financial advice business, there were like three types of clients, three big buckets of clients when they talked with financial advisors. There were people who they met a financial advisor once and they're like, I can do everything that you're describing, so I don't need you. So I've sort of worked out your method and approach. I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
The next group of people were, oh, I can sort of get what you're doing. I don't really want to do all that stuff, but I want you to work with me and we'll sort of do some of these steps together in terms of my managing my finances. And then the third group were, here's the keys to my house, everything. I don't want to know, just get me the returns.
Yep.
And you do everything for me. And I've got a hypothesis that there's going to be the people bucket like that around agents. But if you're falling in those different buckets, it's so important to understand, well, what does that actually mean in terms of control, how safe things are? Because even when Sam Altman came out to talk about the agent release, even he was a bit cautious around, well, would I get it doing stuff for me in a hypersensitive environment with information I wouldn't want to share? Probably not yet. So that's sort of another thing why we say to people is, before you cede all of your control to them, maybe understand some of the things you want them to do and where are the points in your process that it's really important that you either have control or you're reviewing or you're some sort of checkpoint.
Yep.
And I think that's the first time that people are actually getting that consulting buzzword phrase about human in the loop. Like, oh, I'm relating to my own personal situation. That's what it means.
I think in listening to that, there's probably a lot of things that there's going to be a lot of like new attack vectors that people haven't understood or thought of yet, where this agent is going around and opening browsers and doing things. Is it opening the right web page? Are you putting credentials into a spam website or a hack, like a hacked clone of a website that looks very similar? Because we still don't understand how it's searching or doing things. Where if you're looking at a website, you've got a few different checks that you're doing. Are they doing the same thing? Are they looking that the banking website that you're asking it to go to is using the same alphabet characters and it's not a different alphabet, so it's a different website and things like that. Plus, there's going to be a lot more other things that we haven't even thought of yet to protect against. Well, they haven't. I'm pretty sure there's going to be. It's like a whack-a-mole with hackers and security people. So there's going to be a lot more opportunities for issues to arise, I think. So yeah, it is proceed with caution, but just have that control in mind and ask it to, yeah, human in the loop, as you say, is the key thing there. It's be involved in the process. Don't just let it do everything.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point, because on that, I say to recommend to anyone when they're trying out ChatGPT agent, the first 3 times you use it, watch what it's doing, because it's quite cool. It opens up its own browser in your ChatGPT instance, but watch what it's doing, because exactly to your point, what sites is it visiting? How is it interacting in the sites? How's it making its choices? Because it's quite clever. When it's clicking on things, it has a little bit of notation about why it's doing what it's doing. I think that's absolutely really important to that. What you were saying is see what it's doing, but also it's part like learning, teaching us about, oh, okay, so these are how these things are sort of working in progress. I'm watching it. So I definitely wouldn't recommend when you do, activate an agent your first couple of times, you just start it and then you go do other things. Sit down and watch. It's pretty entertaining, actually.
Yeah.
But you'll learn heaps from watching what it does.
It's more capable than you think with little instruction. So I was prototyping for a client and we were trying to scrape some websites using an agent to see what was possible. It's possible, but it was going to end up costing like $3 per page to scrape, where every time they had to scrape the page, it cost $3, where if we built it, you'd have that cost up front once, and then it's going to be fractions of a cent every time you have to go and run that code to get that page content. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of trade-offs. The agents are capable and can do everything you want, but then the amount of time and cost needed is not going to work. Like, to scrape the entire data set of what we were after, I calculated it was going to take 127 hours of continuous agent use to get all that content. I don't know what infrastructure we need to be able to run that, because the agent's not going to run for 127 hours continuously. Doesn't have context for that. So you have to then have an entire pipeline and workflow set up to be able to manage the infrastructure to allow the agents to run individual tasks and then do that. And then now we're going to 250, 300 hours potentially for the first run.
You know what that makes me think is that great saying where if your solution is a hammer, all your problems look like nails.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's the same now, is that,
Completely. I think it is. It's the same as agents. You've got an automated workflow. It's not an agent.
yes, yeah, exactly. And that there was an example with a client, it was about 2 weeks ago, and just having an open conversation about them with what they're trying to solve for, what's important for them as a business, like what are their values. And then it quickly got in terms of, okay, great, what are we going to do? What agents are we going to build? I want an AI agent to be, automating. Well, no, sorry, they didn't even use the word automating. They said, I want an AI agent. I'm active on LinkedIn and I need an agent to run that. But when we unpacked what the process was, they put out really, really good content on LinkedIn. And
Yep.
I'm sort of on the fence. I think it's everyone's prerogative about how they want to put content out there and copy. If they want to write it themselves, if they want to use AI to do it, it's up to individual choice. I'm not someone who can say, well, you shouldn't do that. You should only do it this way. But to your point, when we broke it down, is that their process was a very simple workflow. So they usually come up with ideas. I think on their Sunday afternoon runs, they put their headphones in, they come up with all the ideas, and they drop their ideas on a pad. And then they do a bit of research on each idea. And then they take the top 3 pieces of research on a specific idea. Then they craft it into a post. And then they review the post and they put the post out. So they go, I want an agent to do that. Well, we said, actually, no, you don't necessarily need to. Why don't you just put your ideas in a Google Sheet, then run a research step there to go, pull the top 4 articles on idea 1, condense those articles, and then put a very, very simple prompt that crafts that research into your tone of voice, and then put that information back in a Google Sheet, and then it notifies you so you can review it and then post it.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, instead of going, well, there's an agent does this is a lot more. And also for them, because it's repeatable,
Yep.
they weren't, if you just plonk an AI agent to do all that, you're leaning a lot on the large language model. It's also harder to troubleshoot if things don't quite go right. But with this process,
And it's also going to be different every time.
yeah, each step they go, oh, okay, that wasn't quite right. Okay, which step in the process wasn't work? Oh, that, perfect, I'll fix that.
And that's the problem, I think, with the agents, where if it's a repeatable process, you don't need an agent. Just
Yeah.
make the workflow, have the LLM in between as many steps as you need. Because all it's doing is taking input and giving output. And then something else will take that and then use it again. Chain 4 of them together if you have to.
Yeah.
You don't want to get the one agent and then say, you do this, 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 and this. Because it may do that, it may not. It may do them in different order. Like, there's no guarantee that it's going to follow that process.
Yeah.
That's why you're using an agent, so it can explore and find its own way to do it.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's such a different way of thinking. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is also there's another, how do I describe this, was there's this cohort of people, and like I'm not that I'm always talking to this group of people, but there's this emerging group of people in the market who, and what they share with me, and then another person running an IT business shared the same thing, is that there are a lot of people, and I don't know if necessarily if it is always in the IT space. I'd be really keen to get your thoughts. There's people who are, overtly saying, look, I'm worried about AI taking my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. And so am I. Like, I think a lot of what I was doing last year is now obsolete. But the mindset in this group of people is very different, where they're saying, I'm worried about AI taking my job, so I'm not using AI at all, which I find really, and I can, in terms of trying to understand their perspective, I can sort of see it as like, oh, I'm in this sector and we're going to be massively disrupted. AI is going to take my job. So I am not engaging with AI at all. Almost like a bit of a defensive
Yep.
approach to it. Are you seeing any of that, or do you come across that in any of your clients?
I haven't seen it with direct clients, but probably seeing different things online. So a lot of developers and like the things that I'm looking at to keep on top with it, they're saying that the code will never be as good. They'll never do it, or I used it once and didn't give me the output, so I'm not using it again because it's shit. Like a lot of things like that. But people that are completely sticking their head in the sand are worried that it's going to replace their job, but they're not trying to upskill or do anything different in their job, or then learn how to use that tool better, so then they can be the one that remains in that job to coordinate what the AI has to do it better. Because you've got domain knowledge, you've got experience, you can improve the outcome of that tool. It's not going to do it completely. It still needs human oversight. I think it reminds me of, there was a podcast I was listening to where, the term Luddite?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is when the cotton mills turned, they had the automatic weaving machines were invented. And then people would put out of jobs. So the Luddites were the people that would go around and they destroy all the machines so they could still have a job. But that hasn't stopped anything. We still have machines that sew and weave things together for us. So that's what they were doing. They were going around and destroying people's cotton mills and trying to protect their jobs.
That's so interesting. I think that is a common human reaction, because
Yeah.
maybe a decade and a bit ago, I was working in a completely different role and time, working with a mining company, and it was with what they call their remote operation centers. So big miner, and they control a lot of the trucks from this center in a CBD out in
Yep.
the mine sites, and a lot of the other machinery out there. And they'd done heaps and heaps of testing, heaps, and it was working really well. And then when they rolled it out in the field, there were some sites where time and time again these trucks were failing, either stopping, not completing their routes, and they couldn't work out why, because everything that had been set up had passed all of their quality testing and should be
Yep.
working. And so they went out and visited the sites. And what they found is, for some of the machinery, it required sensors around the mine site.
Mm-hmm.
So the machinery would move through and go past a sensor, and then it would know to go to the next sensor, and so on. So I don't know all the technical detail, because I was working in
Yep.
a more of a strategy role there. When they inspected the sensors, they'd all been smashed with hammers. So the previous
Yep.
people that had driven the machinery were going around and knew, and so they were getting the hammers and whacking breaking the sensors,
Yep.
so that then the machinery failed. So it made me think,
And they rely on the people to do their job again.
yeah, I wonder, it's kind of like, and I wonder actually if, and this is, and it sort of annoys me, is a lot of things annoy me, but this thing in particular annoys me is, oh, look, it can't even determine how many R's are in strawberry.
Yeah, like that's a
And I saw, you know how many posts there were about that, and and look at it, it can't even do a world map. AI is so useless. I think now, after you're telling that story of the Luddites, I wonder if that's the same camp as the people destroying the weaving machines. And
I think it'd be very similar. They'd have a similar mindset in how they approach and view things, because even that is a very, very narrow use case of what it can and can't do. There's that like classic saying: if you test intelligence on something, like if you test how intelligent a bird or a fish is versus a human, I don't know exactly, but it's like if it can't climb a tree, it's not intelligent, or like there's a saying like that. But you're then trying to gauge it with the wrong test. So yeah, counting how many R's there are in strawberry. Well, you didn't know how many R's there were until you were 4, 5, 6, or 7. Like
Yeah.
it's limiting then what you can possibly do with it, and not understand its capabilities to be able to push it forward. Then that's what will end up happening.
Yeah, I agree. And I wonder if that's where the problem with that is that the people that are not wanting to engage with it, who that cohort we're talking about that worried about their jobs being taken, are then seeing that messaging and going, what is it? Confirmation bias. I told you. Yeah, it's not going to work.
They're in their little bubble.
But then on the flip side, in my view, is how, like, because always wanting to help, because I believe in these tools giving us superpowers. When I start engaging with that group that are like, it's going to take my job, one of the main things I say is that let's not shy away that there's going to be job losses. There will be people that are going to be replaced. There are roles that are going to be done differently. But bring it back down to their context and what's in their control. And things that are in their control is to start playing with a tool, like an AI tool, and just starting to experiment with it. And so often you see the discovering fire moments once they start using it. And then the next reframe that I see is, and I'm seeing this more and more now, is that there's this phase we're in at the moment where when AI first came out, you think about the law profession, the legal profession is done for, it's going to be completely replaced. Well, some of the law firms that we had those early conversations with have never been busier.
Yeah.
Never been busier, because my belief is that the tools in the hands of artisans, and that's how we should think about AI tools as well. And I say to people, I'd happily bake you a loaf of sourdough. Ask me, it'll be okay, but if you want a good quality one, go to the baker.
Yeah.
And I actually think, and even, we see this with marketers, creatives, even people in the IT space. I was working with a really interesting board member this week, brilliant thinker. And what gets me really excited is that they have this knowledge and experience that's going to be amplified with an AI tool versus, and their attitude is awesome as well. I'm not going to be, I know some of my stuff I don't need to do and be replaced, but I want to use it to make me better.
Yep.
So that's like the phases I see where people are saying, it's going to take my job. I don't want to engage with it. Well, let's take the first step and play with one of the tools. What are you great at? And then see how the application of that tool can really make you even better. So, I love playing around with VO3. Love it. Like I'm working with a pest control business to make some pretty funny videos for their company. But I'm not a video editor or a person in that space. If this business owner wants to take his videos to the next step, he would work with an agency that is now using AI that has experience in video editing and creation. Because we're just mucking around and like we grab coffee and lunch, we come up with an idea and then we create it in VO3. But, that's where even I see my limitations is I don't have that underlying expertise to know how to direct the agent in that space. I can play with the tool, but I reckon there's a whole industries and whole people that they've got expertise that it's like everyone sort of gets raised up to a certain level because they're all standing on top of AI, but their expertise means they're standing that little bit taller. So they're always going to be in demand, but it takes that step to learn how to use the tool.
Yeah. What I heard was it raises the floor, but it also raises the ceiling.
Yeah, I love that.
So it lifts everything together. That was another podcast I heard. But yeah, that like on the videos, VO3R, I can get it to make something, but then, like you mentioned, you're not a video editor or me. We're not in that space. We can't create a movie quality output and direct scenes like someone who's in the space understands that background and what to do. I can ask ChatGPT, this is my idea, turn it into a prompt for this and put it in, then I'll get something better. But that's one isolated prompt. And we're experiencing that with people who are vibe coding. Still call them that. Or I don't know what everyone if they like the term or not. We've had clients come to us, one client building something for 5-6 months. Absolutely unbelievable what they can come back with and the amount of features that they've built into a platform. Like it took 1 hour to go through the settings menu. That's how much functionality they had just to be able to control and configure the platform. And the system sort of works. Like a happy path in the way he's testing it works. We get access to the code, and in the first version, we can't get it running properly because the database is empty. So the system's been built over time, but not for that first version when you start it off the ground, when happens when you go to like production. And then there's other platforms where there's lots of leftover code, or there's code that says it's doing, the app has said it, the AI has said that it's done it. It looks like there's a button there, it's doing something, but nothing's really happening. So that's when you don't know what you're doing with the tools. When you do know, you can instruct it better and get a better output.
Totally agree. So I think that if people are thinking about wanting, are worried and putting their, not wanting to engage, I really, really believe that your skills can be amplified if you know what you're great at and how do the tools help amplify that. Because I think there's always going to be demand. Like even from a legal perspective, there was a ton of stuff when we were establishing Friday, which we did ourselves with some smart prompting. Drawing up contracts, statement of work, NDAs, all that kind of stuff. However, when we needed to get certain contracts set up and elements of our business set up, we were able to take what we'd maybe similar to that vibe coder. We took what we'd started with, and then we saw the value in the lawyer doing that final step for us. And it was great because we got to a point and we said, we need that confidence. We don't quite know how to take that next step. AI has given us a lot, but now we want to employ that.
Yeah. And you've saved time and money with going to the lawyer. He's got something there to review, and he can then improve it and get it stable or commercially ready effectively. Yeah, and that's the same thing we have. One thing I probably wanted to bring up on just this is, has your experience been sort of like the GPT-5? That's probably been the biggest thing that's come out since we last did this talk, on top of the Google Flash 2.5 Flash Tiny Banana,
Oh, yeah, Nano Banana.
which still, in my experience, I still can't get a good face coming out of it. I can't put me into a different scene. It doesn't work still.
I haven't played enough around with Nano Banana. It's just not enough time. So my experience, if I was honest, not that different.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is that I think very few people did this. And it was one of the first things that I did in a training workshop was I told people how to change the models for that. So that was pre-ChatGPT 5. And the fact now that ChatGPT 5 auto selects based on the query, I'm not seeing that much of an uplift.
Yep.
I know a lot of people who weren't necessarily knowing how to activate a reasoning model with just using GPT 4.0. They've noticed a big uplift, and most of that is because GPT-5 is bringing a more powerful model in to answer their question. I'd be honest. It's still my go-to tool. Like it's what I collaborate with. There's some stuff I think I'd rather ChatGPT focus on fixing how projects can be shared amongst teams than fixing the next model.
It's the worst team experience I've ever seen.
Yeah. It seems like let's keep focusing on the models rather than, well, actually, let's think about how teams are using accounts. Because at the moment, if you set up a project inside ChatGPT, and I think projects are phenomenal, like brilliant, same with Claude. And if you think about a project as a new employee, it completely transforms how you use a project. But it's limited because my co-founders and other team members can't access that project. And we don't share chats because they get indexed by Google. So for me, that's a functionality thing for OpenAI to fix is, great, make projects shareable across your team. So that's probably more, I wish they'd focus on that because I haven't had much of a different experience with GPT-5. But what about you? Have you had much of a different?
My biggest experience is when you hit that button and you send your message, it's like spinning the roulette wheel. I don't know how long we're going to wait to get a response back. Is it going to be 5 minutes or am I going to get it back in a second? And there's probably been a lot of times where I've hit just like skip just to get a response quickly. That's probably the biggest thing. I haven't used it where people have sort of become like attached to the way it was responding as 4.0, which was a lot of the complaints online and on X. I don't use it that way. Mine's just very instructional, give me information back. For that reason, I haven't seen much difference. But I haven't forced it to be in like O3 Pro all the time either, or 5 Pro. I mean, sorry. So it's always doing the reasoning. It's more, yeah, just hit the button, and then I'm not sure what it thinks if it's an easy or a far or a slow question. Like if it's easy or a hard question, how long it should take. That's been the biggest thing. I'm probably waiting a lot more, I think, because it's just doing the automatic web search and stuff in the background.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Have you found your sense of how long you expect things to take has shortened since using Gen AI tools?
A little bit in some of the queries. Some of the things I think it should be able to answer without, but it's going to do a web search in between. So as soon as I see that, I'm like, all right, I know why it's going to take a while now. But I use it primarily for a lot of deep research and technical things. So the things I'm doing are going to take time anyway. I had one that ran for 5 hours at one point, and it only found 3 websites. So it was just very, very, very limited thing that it could actually find on the internet. So I'm guessing that's why it took so long, or they
Yeah.
just paused it.
Yeah. Wow, 5 hours. That's got to be a record. But I suppose you're doing quite specific.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. It didn't even give me a good response because I couldn't find the information.
Yeah. Yeah. Comes back after 5 hours. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't find this
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
done. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, there was a lot of uproar about it, but it's doing the same thing. I think the biggest problem was on that first day when they released it, the model picker was broken apparently. So it wasn't doing the right model when people were querying it, and then they did that quick fix. But I think, yeah, taking everything else away was potentially a problem because everyone had learned how to use those. They weren't like direct replacements for them.
Okay. Because and for other people that I follow and talk to, yeah, I know one guy that I follow and I learn a lot from him, guy based in the UK. He's doing awesome stuff in the education space. He's now cancelled his ChatGPT subscription. So in following his experience is he's found lower quality output, especially from when it's helping with coding and just greater hallucination rates. But then other people are raving about it. So this is where there's a bit of a gap in the actual data. And
Yeah, it's hard to pick.
yeah, it's really hard to know what to listen to. And I think something I get frustrated about is, and maybe I contribute to this, so I will be guilty, is the influencers trying to jump on something straight away. And like, that MIT study that came out about how it makes you dumber. And when
Yeah.
if you'd actually read the study, it was pretty flawed in terms of coming to those conclusions. But so many people are still jumping on those headlines. Look how it makes you dumber without taking a bit of time, letting
Yeah.
things run for a couple of days or even a week and play with them. Um, and that's what when I look at a lot of the content coming out, well, no, a lot of the commentary coming out about ChatGPT 5, oh, it's amazing and it's crap. I definitely lean more towards the people that I know are really working in the tools, and
Yep.
often their perspectives come out a bit slower and longer. But a lot of people get that post out fast, grab a headline, get a lot of attention, get a lot of eyeballs on.
They just jump onto things.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily right.
Anecdotally, I'm not seeing too many hallucinations. It's doing a lot of citations and references as it gives out output, which is good. So we're searching technical things. So, all right, we want to use this tech stack. Can I do this, this, and this? And then it'll come back and give you the 3 links. Then we go and scan those links and go, yeah, all right, that aligns. It points us in the right direction. So we're using it to really compress like that research time
Yeah.
for things. And then, all right, here's an idea that I formulated. I want to do it this way. Help me diagram that. So then I don't have to start the diagram from scratch. Or help me plan something else and give me some overviews on this and this.
Mm-hmm.
Could I do this a different way and then expand that? So we use it as an extra person in a meeting to help plan as well.
Love it. I like that.
Yeah.
Another tool that I'm using more and more, or two tools that I'm using more and more, and they're the OG, some of the OG tools, Claude, and seeing Claude position itself more and more as an enterprise tool, which is brilliant. So
Yep.
I think it was Quantium. I was meeting someone at Quantium the other day, and they've adopted it in their organization. And what I like about Claude, and I think this is, and I don't think it's talked about enough as an option for enterprises to use, because I think a lot of people default to Copilot, and I've got a whole series of opinions about Copilot, which is shared by a lot of executives I talk to,
Yep.
which I won't go into now, or ChatGPT, and they don't put Claude in that, and Gemini, obviously, if you're a Google Workspace. But the way I think about it is that people are saying, oh, you should choose the AI model that a lot of people are building for. So obviously Copilot and OpenAI, because everyone wants to build for those tools. And I actually think that's completely wrong, because rather learn a tool that you like, an AI tool, because it's irrelevant what other software and platforms and tools build for, because the AI will be able to interact with them. And you see that with Claude, because people are saying, oh, we know Claude isn't an enterprise tool. It's good for writing. I'm like, well, that's coming from a place people haven't actually tested it,
Yeah.
because it's brilliant. Like,
Yeah. They are positioning as an enterprise play compared to OpenAI's consumer play.
I totally agree. And it's just that flip, like how people need to think about it is, well, you don't have to default to Copilot. Like I get it. Like I don't want to come across as anti-Microsoft. I was Microsoft for a year. Like Excel. Sorry.
I'm anti-Copilot.
Well, I find I'm going more down that path. But I lived my early career in Microsoft Excel, not Microsoft Word, because that's the worst product ever invented. But it just, I don't know why, and it is getting better. So I still dip in and try and see if Copilot's improved. But I think if people want to try something, don't think you have to default to Copilot.
Yeah.
Like, choose one. They feel like, do I need all 4 tools? I'm like, no. If you want, my belief is, you want a tool that's got I don't want to use the word ethical, but the way Anthropic are going about running their business, I think is a more human first, guardrail focused way of building their tool.
It's more security forward, and they're putting that at the forefront. I don't like the direction they're going on. So it's conscious, and we're making moral decisions as the AI. That I think should be separated, because it's software. Don't start polluting people into thinking, oh, now we have to give AI rights because it's conscious and it's got ethics and morals. It doesn't. It's software.
Yeah, agreed. And people are like, it's an employee. I'm like, well, what do you define as employee? It's an absolutely amazing extra worker. But yeah, I think they're
You're going to give it leave, entitlements.
but yeah, my view is that they're, if I compare that to, say, ChatGPT, Claude's got project sharing right.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it can be done. So yeah, my often advice to people is choose one tool. There's no right tool. If you are in a Microsoft business, you're probably going to use Copilot. You'll probably just have to deal with all the challenges with it. Fine. It's getting better, and it will, and it's Microsoft. They'll eventually solve it. But if you have the choice of what you want, Gemini, ChatGPT, or Claude, like any of those 3, get a personal account.
Play with them. Give each of them a week and see what happens. Like, it's just getting into the tools and seeing which one you actually like or you work with better, because they're all a little bit different.
Yeah. And I love how when I open up Claude in the afternoon, it says, coffee and Claude time, Gareth.
I haven't used it enough to experience that. ChatGPT is my default. I've probably got about 25 ChatGPT chat windows open in all my browsers with all the different things and threads that I'm working on. So I'll start one. All right, you're going to take 5 minutes. I'll go do another one, and then I'm just bouncing between things on different projects.
So you open different windows?
I probably have. I think I've got, just looking at my computer now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Firefox windows open. It's like I break up my workspaces into windows for different projects that I'm bouncing between during the day, and then there's a couple ChatGPT windows in each of them probably.
That's brilliant. I like that.
And that's how I just keep track of my rough work. I know, all right, these set of tabs is for this project. These set of tabs are for this.
And what about ChatGPT browser-based versus getting the desktop application?
I haven't used the desktop yet. I'm still all browser. Yeah, I don't even use like Outlook, the application. I just do it or everything in the browser.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just didn't want to install another program.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's probably it.
Yeah, well, I'm the same. Like I find it really interesting because it's web application based. Because I've got Claude and ChatGPT. I ended up getting the native desktop apps,
Hmm.
but I just don't use them. And I've just found that interesting. And I'm just curious about other people's
I think it's
experiences of that.
because you're in the browser anyway. So then having to then break out of that and go to something else, it's probably it's a few seconds. It doesn't take a long time, but it just breaks you out of your workflow.
Yeah, that is a good point. So your home base is a browser, so your assistant's in the browser.
So the AI browsers may be interesting as they get a bit more robust. I just haven't tried the Perplexity one yet or the Claude extension.
Yeah, but it's like if there was a real need with that kind of stuff, my hunch is that if it solved a really powerful need, you'd be all over it.
Probably. If it's just going to click through a website for me, that's I'm just sitting here not doing anything then. Or I'll have another 10 windows open and they'll all be clicking on their own. And what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Gareth, just taking a look at the time, probably have to wrap it for today. It's been a good chat as usual. A lot of their thinking about how different people are probably approaching AI. Still, we're over 1,000 days since the launch of ChatGPT, and there's still people that are putting their head in the sand. So it's interesting to see that hasn't shifted, and they're being overly cautious, I would say, and not open to the possibility of what's happening. So it's been an interesting chat on that.
Yeah, I always enjoy this, and I'm going to try that. I'm going to have a couple of browser windows open
Yep.
now with different instances of ChatGPT.
Cool. All right. Well, Gareth, thanks for joining me, and have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks. Bye.